Welcome, 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 everyone. Whether you're joining us live on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, or even catching the replay later, I am so glad you're here. Drop a quick hello in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. I think it's always amazing how people around the world get to come all together during these live events and have these fun conversations. Today, we are diving into one of the hottest red topic conversations that there are, and that's about how companies everywhere are rolling back remote work and returning to office mandates, convinced that productivity depends on being in the office, physical presence. But I don't think that that's the full story. Now, we've heard all kinds of anecdotal evidence from employees and teams and even business leaders. But what about actual research? Has anyone ever truly studied the shift in how we work? I think the reality is that work has changed, whether there's research out there or not, on what's better. Hybrid teams, flexible teams, fractional leaderships are shaping the future of talent. But despite this, companies are still calling people back into the office. And there are a lot of things behind the scenes that are moving it. I personally recruit for quite a bit of startups and scale ups who are pushing back on this notion. We know the big companies are doing it. They say it's easier that way. But it can be done, and it can be done well. And I really want to pull back the curtain on behind the scenes, way beyond any of the headlines. And I found a guest. Her name is Dr. Helena Pleinert. I think I butchered how I said your last name. I'm so sorry. But her and her team, in partnership with the Swiss Innovation Academy, have been studying this in real time. And they've uncovered quite a bit on how to make hybrid and remote workplaces be successful. So let me go ahead and bring her live on stage. Whoa. Okay, let me find this button again because Restream moved it. Yay, Dr. Helena,
Hello.
thank you so much for joining us.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting.
Yes, thank you. So you are a managing partner at your organizational consulting firm, and you specialize in organizational performance, hybrid leadership, and flexible work studies. So it's really neat that you got to partner with the Swiss Innovation Institution to study this. And I cannot wait to hear what your research has found. People want to know, can remote work work? So give us a sneak peek into what your research found.
Well, let me first refer to some of the things that you said. Like, yes, there are RTOs now, but still, when you look at the numbers, when you look at the statistics, hybrid is the majority. Hybrid is the majority model. There is a shift from full flexible hybrid towards structured hybrid, where there is, let's say, a requirement of 2 days or 3 days at the office, things like this, yes. But currently, it's about a 2/3, 1/3 split between 2/3 is either fully flexible or some kind of structured hybrid, and 1/3, about 1/3, is fully in the office. And it hasn't been moving very much. And in addition to those cases where we hear of RTOs, which is big news in the media, there are many companies who continue hybrid. And you mentioned small companies, entrepreneurial small companies. They are the majority. A much bigger, much larger majority is fully remote or hybrid. And us, Planet and Partner, also we have been fully remote since our founding. We have been fully remote since 2006, so long before remote and hybrid went mainstream, and long before the pandemic caused a quick increase in very fast increase in hybrid work. And here, one more remark before I come to our research. Of course, hybrid, often people mention hybrid remote as if they were consequences of the pandemic, but that's not true, of course. They were already They were already there before the pandemic, but the pandemic accelerated the trend towards them. Yeah, and our research. So as you mentioned, we have been collaborating with the Swiss Innovation Agency, InnoSwiss,
Yep.
and with academic partners from the Lucerne University of Applied Sciences and Arts to create a model and a toolbox for optimizing hybrid leadership. Because
Love it.
hybrid has many, or hybrid collaboration, firstly, has many advantages, but it depends on doing it right. And that depends very much on hybrid leadership. And that model, the core of the model is a model of 8 hybrid leadership competencies. So should I list them now, or do you have some questions before or comments?
So before we give away
To do a long
all the
monologue
leadership
here.
competencies, why don't we go through a couple of questions? I have some questions that clients ask, and let's go through the questions before we give away what the 8 competencies are, because anybody who's really looking to position themselves to lead a hybrid work environment, they want to make sure that they can advocate for it being successful and make sure that they can demonstrate those competencies. So to your point, Dr. Helena, hybrid work isn't new, but many companies are struggling to make it work. So in your research, what was the biggest reason, if you researched it, what was the biggest reason hybrid leadership fails? Maybe not all 8 of them, but just a couple.
The biggest reason is the lack of experience. So that, of course, it does touch on all the competencies. It's a lack of experience in remote and hybrid leadership. And with the lack of experience comes also a reluctance as a humans. It is a human thing to want to do things the way that you have already always done. We do things the way we have always done them. This is human. It is, of course, it is not. In fact, leaders should not fall into this. Leaders should always question things and be open to innovation. This is a general leadership competency, not just a hybrid one. But there is a human tendency to be reluctant when there is something new. And then we could also ask, is it a generational thing? Because obviously, the top management, the average age of the top management is higher than the average age of the individual contributor. This is clear. And I personally very much dislike putting people into boxes based on their generation, based on their age. And I believe that there are in every age group, there are people who are very open to new things and who are experienced with new things, who are even early adopters, completely independently of age. But this said, there is some correlation, of course, there is some correlation. And that is certainly one of the factors. So it's, to summarize, it's the lack of experience and it's the lack of openness to the new trends, and this has some correlation with the age structure in companies.
That's so interesting. I mean, I used to work for Department of Labor grants, and one of the grants that I ran was the AARP Back to Work 50 Plus grant, and that was a major stigma that people had to overcome, is being willing to prove that they were innovative. And I think that a lot of organizations embracing hybrid work, even before the pandemic, they obviously were more open to innovation and allowing talent to come from not just their local community where they've got a local footprint presence at, which just makes sense. If you want to find the best talent, what's the chances that it's in the same town that you're located in? So I know everybody wants to know, what are the 8 principles? So your team, in partnership with the Swiss Innovation Agency, has been researching what makes hybrid leadership effective. And I know when my clients, my job seeker clients, are trying to present themselves as attractive for these limited hybrid roles now, at least in the United States, because so many organizations are going back to in person, at least at a lot of these larger companies. So how do you stand out? What is it about hybrid or remote leaders that make them successful? So let's get into them. And I'm going to take notes as you go because I don't want to miss them.
Just one more comment again to what you said. Hybrid and remote, of course, allow access to a larger range of diversity. On one hand, because you can access people everywhere. Obviously, you have diversity from people from different backgrounds, but also diversity in your local community because you have people with different life situations, and you profit a lot in several ways from diversity, which brings increased problem solving capabilities and increased innovation power. So this is one of the very attractive points of hybrid and remote work. And now, as you asked, how to get it right and to overcome the problems like communication and coordination problems, which are reasons why some organizations are reluctant or are giving up on their initial and early attempts at working hybrid. So there are 8 competencies, and they are grouped in pairs. The pairs are always a mindset competency, so how do we view things, and a action competency, how do we act. The first pair is hybrid self-awareness and role awareness of the leader, and managing culture. So that's about understanding your own and other people's ways of work, diversity among your preferences, but also understanding that for certain things there are best practices where you need to be guiding your team. And managing culture is managing all this diversity of individuals, of personalities, but also of backgrounds. Then the second pair is media awareness and managing technology. So media awareness is awareness of all the technology, of the media that we can use for hybrid collaboration, communication tools, collaboration platforms, awareness, understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of the various platforms, also understanding of trends, knowing what's in the near future, what's around the corner. And that's, for example, the whole immersive tools, and all this is a whole very exciting area. Also, how will we use in the near future immersive tools? We are already using them, but we'll probably use them even much more. And then managing technology is the action side of this, to turn this knowledge and awareness into action and make sure that your team has the best practice of using the various media. And then the third pair, I think also all the competencies are important, but the third is really the very core, the key, in my opinion. It's the meta-local mindset on the mindset side, and it's building trust in hybrid contexts on the action side. So what's the meta-local mindset? This is a mindset where you perceive social presence as being independent of physical presence. Presence defined by interaction and not by being in the same room. And therefore, also a virtual interaction place, a virtual place can also be perceived as a place where we interact, where things happen, where we have where we overcome problems, where we solve problems, where we celebrate success, where we build memories, and so on, in addition to physical rooms. And the core, again, to repeat, is really social presence is not the same as physical presence. And here, as a small parenthesis, perhaps, it's also a question of an evolution of language, where we are all only at the beginning. Like you used the term of in-person earlier, to designate to be personally present physically. But I feel that we are also personally present now. I am fully in my person. I can assure you, and I speak to you and the audience fully in my person. I assure you.
I
And
like your evolution of language. I'm all on board with this.
yeah, and so thank you. Yeah, and so the action side is building trust. So once you have this mindset, that that leads you to be inclusive across locations, not to forget people who don't happen to be not around on that day. It becomes something that's spontaneous, and that leads to inclusion, that leads to spontaneous communication, which leads to, again, to better collaboration. It leads to spontaneous socializing, which leads to better team bonding, and a one team mentality, and so that all this leads to trust. And yeah, and that's the third pair. And the final pair, the fourth pair, is distributed transparency and empowering people in hybrid contexts. So that's the mindset for and the ability to distribute information in distributed teams, to make sure to have this awareness who needs what information. Like here, maybe I describe it by the contrary. The contrary of distributed transparency is if a team leader arrives at the physical office and says, "Hey guys, I have news," and then and mentions the news to the people who happen to be at that office on that day, and then has the feeling, okay, I told them the news. So that's totally the contrary of the mindset and action of distributed transparency and empowering people. And yeah, that's the 8 competencies.
When you put it like that, I mean, it just sounds so intuitive because, of course, we're here, we're together, we can build trust with each other, we can still lead projects successfully. I mean, this isn't rocket this isn't rocket science. It is a mindset shift. So I took those notes down. So for everyone tuning in, don't worry, after this live I will put it in the chat, and anyone who subscribes to my newsletter, I'll be sending an email out that breaks this down and gives you ideas on how to showcase this and create effective interview responses surrounding these principles. So, what are some of the biggest shifts that leaders need to make when moving away from traditional in-office models to leading a hybrid team? One of the things that you said was, hold on, let me look at my notes, hybrid self-awareness. And so what shifts, what awareness do they need to have?
Yeah, I think the first thing is what we already addressed in the beginning, is the openness to change and to new things. Then I think that an important point is to approach the change in a human-centric way. Often people focus at first on the surface manifestations, such as we have a problem with coordination of our activities, with our syncing our calendar. So I think that may be somewhat trivial, but also have big consequences and are purely process, management and process questions. And these are the issues that are visible at the surface, but you have to start with the mindset. You have to start in a human-centric way. In how do people think about these things? How do they perceive them? That will shape their behavior. And then when you start from there, that's not a luxury to start from there. That's where the leverage is. Then the processes will fall into place much more easily.
I go into organizations and consult with them on certain talent things, improving recruiting practices or leveraging LinkedIn to improve branding, things of that nature. You go in and you help organizations at a much grander scale. And so you see all kinds of wild, crazy issues. So, what are some of the common mistakes that leaders in hybrid environments make? And what are some of the things that your consulting firm helps implement so that way there are functional workplaces?
Yeah, I will give 2 examples, one on the mindset side and one on which is more on the surface side, kind of. First one is we help leaders, but also anyone in organizations, to get on a fast track to a meta-local mindset. We think and we observe in organizations that one of the issues is that there is a large, wide range of level of experience in remote and hybrid environments and in virtual environments. Some leaders and some other people have experience over years and decades, and not just at work, also in outside of work, in virtual communities, in virtual worlds, and so on. But many others have only a little experience or none. And how do we get everybody on one level and quickly? Because that's mission critical. That's really important. And so one of the things that we focus on is this fast track training, where we bring people into a training where we put them in a virtual world and we make them do activities there that can be competitive activities, creative activities, also activities that intentionally build memories of the activities that they do there to make it more real. Yeah? When you have memories of something, when you have pictures of something, I put the pictures on the wall of your virtual house, because we also build a virtual building there and so on, it becomes more real. And of course, we are not saying that they should go back to the office or the home office and build a virtual house, but that's not the point. But the point is really to help people get to have this aha moment, yeah. And that's one of our like flagship tools,
That sounds
very
like so
central
much
tools.
fun. And hey, getting something fast tracked sounds great.
Yes, yeah, and that's really important for organizations, yeah. And then the second example, that's also something that is much in demand, is to help organizations create a consistent guideline for hybrid etiquette, a consistent and customized guideline for hybrid etiquette that fits their organization and their culture. And that's then an expression, of course, of mindset, and in the everyday, it helps a lot with everyday communication and collaboration, and avoiding also misunderstanding, avoiding conflicts.
I hear that so often when it comes into hybrid conflict. Like they wore their pajamas on a call, or they never turn their video on. What is acceptable? What's not? Defining that and setting the culture for what hybrid looks like. It's important. Okay, I know we're coming up close to time, and your time is more than valuable. So
There's a question. I just saw
oh,
a question in the chat.
awesome. Let me pull it up. Okay, yeah. While we're doing this, welcome Annabelle from Zurich, Ransford from Ghana. Okay, how do I pronounce this name?
This is Myrto from Zurich.
Myrtle from Zurich. Hello,
Yes.
welcome. And Carl has a question. Okay,
Yes,
Carl
thank you,
says,
Carl, for your question. So we are using either a business platform that's called United, or also Second Life.
so Carl's question was, love the focus on virtual worlds. I've been building this out for years. Out of professional curiosity, what tool do you use when building virtual rooms with your clients? So you just had two tools. What were they called again?
We can also use others, like the content of the training doesn't depend on the tool. For
Okay.
example, a client has their own virtual environment or wants to use some other tool. Perfect, we can do it, of course. But those are two tools that we recommend.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So, Helena, if you could leave leaders with just one critical takeaway for making hybrid leadership work, what would you say is the most important thing that people need to get right?
Start with the mindset. Cultivate a meta-local mindset. Mindset is not a luxury. It is the leverage.
Oh, I like that. All right. So, for those of you who are just tuning on now, Dr. Helena said that there are 8 competencies to effective hybrid leadership, and they're in 4 core pairs: one with a mindset, one with an action, hybrid self awareness and managing culture, media awareness and managing technology, um, mindset and building trust. What kind of mindset for number 3?
The meta-local mindset.
Meta local
It
mindset.
is a concept that we have defined in our project.
I
So it is
like
a new
that.
concept.
Okay, we're gonna have to trademark that for you. And then
We have written a paper. We are going to write more papers, but we have already written one that we published last year. I can give you the link afterwards.
perfect. Yes, I will add that into the newsletter. And then transparency and empowering people. And I love that empowering people is part of it, because as leaders, if we're going to lead teams, we need to make sure that they have the tools and resources to be able to effectively do their job. And so before tuning out, Carl says, thanks for sharing. Love seeing both of those. Second Life is the OG for virtual worlds. Also agree the tool isn't the focus. It's meant to alleviate the need, not showcase itself. Thanks so much for sharing your insights and research. Carl, we appreciate you being here today. All right. Well, everyone who tuned in, thank you so much for being here on Leading the Future with Dr. Helena. Dr. Helena, thank you for your team's research coming in today to share it with us. And for those of you who did tune in, make sure that you follow Dr. Helena and reach out to her with any questions. If you are an organization that wants to make hybrid work better, Dr. Helena, how do people reach out to you?
On LinkedIn. The best is on LinkedIn.
Okay, perfect. All right, everyone. I have enjoyed this conversation so much. I can't wait to dissect it and start implementing it with helping some of my own clients who are on their job search be more effective at positioning themselves for leading hybrid and remote teams. Again, Dr. Helena, thank you so much for joining. And
It
we
was a
are
pleasure.
going
Thank you
to
for
see.
having me.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Well, we will see everyone next week, every Friday at 11 o'clock. Although this week I messed up on the time, so it was at noon Central Time. But yeah, every week we go live and have an amazing guest like Dr. Helena come on and talk about something that is impacting leaders today. All right, everybody, see you next time.